Alright guys, just doing a very quick sound check. Hello, 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 testing 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Alright guys, let's jump right on into this. We have an essay from Cheyenne Nash. I apologize if I mispronounce your name, and I'm also really bad at telling if I have a lot of difficulty telling non-English male and female names, so I do apologize. If this is you, please say hello and let me know. Also, today we are going to be looking at a student's bar chart. This is the first time we're doing a bar chart live stream. Before we get started, please remember that you watch this live if possible. You can see this is us right now. Please remember to click that like button if you like what you see. Make sure that you are watching live and not in the past. And finally, we do have the document right here if you cannot read it clearly on the thing. We also have our full schedule, as always, both here and following this link. So without further ado, let's get started. Oh yeah, sorry, one last thing. The 2 o'clock time slot does not seem to be particularly popular, so please let us know what time you prefer. Please let us know either in the chat or in the comments. If you prefer to have it later at 2:30 or 3 Taiwan time, or if you prefer to have it earlier, though I think it's probably too early for some people already. Alright guys, so today's bar chart is right here. If we take a look at what we need, let me actually just delete that. If we take a look at what we need, if we analyze the chart really fast, we can see that there are males and females. We have number of hours of leisure time. Over here is extremely important. Make sure you always see what is being measured. We have different categories, and we have it. I know that it's a little bit tricky because you can see 1998 to 1999, but the bottom axis is not time. So this is not a change over time graph. This is a static graph. So pie charts, bar charts, most pie charts, most bar charts, and a lot of tables are static, which means you are not going to use sentences that you use to describe change over time. You will not say increase, you will not say decrease. If we analyze the data in the graph, we can see that these are the same. That's a significant feature we should probably talk about. We should also see that men have more free time than women in all the categories that men are measured. So I'm sorry for all the female viewers. Do you think this is true? Do you think men have more free time? Unfortunately, and probably yes. We also see that there seems to be a relationship between working and having less free time. So basically, the more that you work, the less free time you have. We can see this clearly with the females on this graph. Full-time employees have the least amount of free time, leisure time. Then part-time have slightly more free time. Housewives have slightly more free time. And then retired and unemployed have about the same amount of free time. So these are the most significant features that you probably need to talk about. But let's actually go into his essay. Now we can see right from the top that it's not particularly strong. One big problem, even before I read his essay and gave him the score, I knew that he was not going to have more than a 5 for task achievement. The reason for that was because he did not have an overview. He has an introduction, and then he has a body 1, and he has a body 2, but he does not have an overview. Remember, if you don't have an overview, the highest score you can get for task achievement is a 5. So we knew that he was never going to have more than a 5. However, once I read his essay, it ended up being a 4, not necessarily because his analysis was bad. The reason why he got this score was almost entirely to do with his sentence frames and his vocabulary. This student, this person studying for the IELTS exam, used a lot of vocabulary that you learn for describing line graphs or change over time, increase and decrease. And because he used the wrong vocabulary, it made it impossible for him to get a high score for task achievement. And you guys are going to see something very strange here, which is his grammar is actually really good. He wasn't making basic grammar mistakes. He made a few here and there, but for the most part, his sentences were fine. He was just using the wrong sentences. But let's actually dive into his essay to see why. So we can see his intro is actually really good. He did a good job by rephrasing leisure time. He does have one task achievement problem right here, which is below. There is no graph below his essay, so he should not have copied this. He should have said given. The given bar chart shows how much spare time was enjoyed by men and women with distinct kinds of employment. This is another vocab problem. It's actually okay, but it's very weird to say. He should have tried to change this a little bit more. Remember, guys, a really good strategy is if you take the prompt and then you change it from active voice to passive voice. That's a really good way to show the examiner your awesome grammar muscles, and then also to, in case you can't change too many other words. But his intro is actually quite good. When I read his intro, I was like, okay, great, this is going to be about a 5 or a 6. Probably leaning towards a 6. Then we go into his first paragraph. Now, as soon as I saw this first word, I knew that there was going to be problems, because initially is a sequencing word. We say initially and finally to say the beginning and the end. Initially can be used as a CC word to say the first thing that I'm going to talk about. But here he's using it to talk about time. He's saying at this time, regarding men, they, for the amount of free time. Now this is a pretty big vocabulary problem. The magnitude of free time spent by them experienced a substantial decline. This is pretty weird to say, the magnitude of free time. But it's not exactly wrong. The problem comes when we get to his verb. Experienced a substantial decline. Again, this is the vocabulary that we use with change over time. We use this with line graphs. Experienced a substantial decline is a great sentence frame. This student stole this sentence from another essay and he tried to use it in this one. That is great, but you need to learn certain graphs have certain sentence frames. This does not have time. This is not change over time, so this is the wrong sentence to use. This is what really hurts his essay and what brings him down to a 4. Remember, vocabulary can affect your task achievement score. So yes, he was talking about how it declined to 0, but there's no time, so there's no way that you can say decline. And then it just continues. But afterwards, there was a significant increase in spare time from 0 to just over 80%. This is another big problem because there are no percents on this graph. It's only measuring the hours of leisure time. Hello, Raghav. Welcome. Thank you for joining. So happy to see you there. By the way, if you guys want to be a super student like Raghav, just say hello in chat when you arrive. I hope that you're doing very well today, Raghav. Please let me know in chat how well your day is going. My day is going pretty well because I get to help this student. Yeah. Okay. So going back here, 80% was a problem because this is not measuring percent, it's measuring the hours of leisure time. So this is 20 hours of leisure time, 40 hours of leisure time. Percent is not here. However, we can see here, which is the amount of time spent by unemployed and retired men. This is a beautiful clause. This is high-level grammar. This is using a relative clause correctly, and it's great. But unfortunately, because of his vocabulary problems, because he's using the wrong sentence frames, his analysis does not match what the graph is showing. So again, 4 in task achievement. We can see that continued down here. This is the only time when it was kind of appropriate, an increase trend from full-time employed ones to retired ones. This is comparing them, and there is an increase when you're looking between them, but again, this is still the language that you should be using for line charts and not static bar charts. Raghav, I am so jealous. Raghav just got his 2nd shot of coronavirus. Congratulations, I'm so happy for you. Here in Taiwan, we just got a shipment of vaccines. Luckily, people are locking down pretty well, so we're actually seeing a decrease in numbers, but we don't have many vaccines in Taiwan right now, so I'm pretty low on the list. We need to make sure we vaccinate the elderly, the people working in hospitals, and hopefully Uber Eats drivers. I feel like that they should be a pretty high priority. I'm so happy for you, Raghav, and I'm very jealous. Now you can start living your life again. Okay, so going down to this last part, we see that he's trying to use better vocabulary here. Moreover, the maximum free time of about 81 hours was spent by the unemployed. This is better than increase and decrease, because increase and decrease is just the wrong kind of graph. It's the wrong kind of sentence. However, here, he's trying to use the right words, but he doesn't know what ones to use. He doesn't know the sentence frame to use to describe this. So when we go to the model essay, this will become a lot clearer. The sentence frames he was using were all wrong. Even when he was closer, it was still not right. He's not making good sentences anymore. Like when he was up here saying experiences substantial decline, the grammar was perfect. It was just the wrong one to use. Down here, because he doesn't know how to use these sentences, they're just wrong. The grammar is wrong and the vocab is wrong, so you can't understand what he's saying. So again, it's a 4. If there's very little understanding, that's when you get down to the 4 level. Okay, so as we can see for the analysis, you used the wrong sentence frames and vocabulary, which made your analysis wrong. Again, I have a feeling that when you analyzed it, you probably understood the main points. Like I said, these are the same. If you have more paid work, you have less free time. That's a good relationship to say. And men had more free time than women. I'm sure that you saw those things, but you didn't have the vocabulary and you didn't have the grammar to show it. And that's what the IELTS exam is trying to test. Luckily, as we get to the other sections, we'll find that it's not actually that bad. You're actually really close to a 6 if you learned the right sentence frames to use for static graphs. Okay. Yep, don't say increase and decrease. This is not change over time. And it is important to learn the sentence frames for each type of essay. This is the main thing here. Different types of essays need different sentence frames. And like I said, we will learn some of these sentence frames in the model essay. Just to be clear, I just want to give one example here. Let's say employed full-time, and this is about 45 hours. So men who were employed full-time enjoyed, or you could also say had, 45 hours of free time in a typical week between 1998 and 1999. This is just a sentence frame to use for your own essays. This is a very basic one that is just describing a piece of data. So, and that is this one, about 45 hours of free time a week. And again, it's always important to say of what when you are having this time here. All right, guys. So again, we will see some more higher level sentence frames when we go down to the model essay. All right, let's look at cohesion and coherence. He got a 5 because even though he was using the wrong sentences, his grammar was good. So it was, you were able to see how his ideas were being connected. Also, he used a lot of CC words correctly. Let's just highlight them as we see them. So this is the only one that was really wrongly used. But if he used initially correctly to say the first thing I'm going to talk about, this would have been fine. But he was using it regards to time. Lastly is okay because he's using this to say in his essay the last thing I'm going to say. All right. So he was able to add a comment using a relative clause. That was nice. Just really quickly going over the ones that he used correctly. As you guys can see, there's a lot of green, but his structure is not great because there's no overview. And then also, he did an okay job saying men and female, but a problem that he has is that he wasn't comparing men to female. This is another thing that we should probably add up here to task achievement, which is you need to be making comparisons about all major things. So he did okay comparing the different work categories, but he didn't actually compare men and women. All right, so he does have men here and he has women here. However, he's not saying that men had more free time than women, which is something that they want for task achievement. All right, guys. So again, his CC was okay. Really, it's between a 4 and a 5. I gave him a 5 because, again, he connected his ideas fine. He did an okay job with his structure, but there's no overview, and again, his vocabulary is stopping him from being able to really connect his ideas with the graph appropriately. All right, let's next go to vocab. We're not going to spend too much time here because we mostly talked about his vocab mistakes up here. Remember, his vocab mistakes was what lowered his task achievement score. The main thing was that he used the wrong words for this type of graph. He needs to learn the sentence frames for static graphs. Just some examples of static graphs are bar charts, pie charts, and tables. So again, you can see all of his vocab mistakes here in the task achievement section. And again, you can see it here yourself if I'm going too fast and you want to spend some time. You can see everything highlighted and read it at your own pace based on the link in the description. All right, but let's keep going to cohesion and coherence. Let's keep going to grammar because this is kind of what saved him. This is what gave him the second 5. All of the green are things that were good sentences, that were good pieces of grammar that raised his grammar score. His grammar score would actually be between a 5 and a 6 normally. However, the orange, anything in orange is a good sentence. The sentence is made correctly. There's no grammar mistakes. It's just not the right sentence for this kind of graph. So think of the orange as light green. It's correct, but it's inappropriate. It's correct, but it's not the thing that he should be using in this type of essay. The red at the bottom is the only real grammar mistakes that he was making, and this is why I'm saying he's between a 5 and a 6, leaning towards a 6. even though he got a low score, so a 4.5 total, I don't want him to feel really, really bad about his score, because he is actually close to a 5.5 or a 6 if he learned the right sentences to use for this kind of graph. Like I said down here, the maximum free time of about 81 hours. This sentence is just wrong. It has a different meaning than what he needs it to mean, and that is what hurts him. Its grammar shows meaning, and because he's not having the right meaning here, it is wrong 100%. Unlike the green and the orange, which is actually good grammar, but just not the right time to use it. So that's why I say that he's actually really close to a 5.5 or 6 if he learned the right sentences. But I said that enough times, it's time to actually see the correct sentences. We have a model essay here. Again, we're going to go over it quite quickly because it is quite short. But I want to point out some main things. Again, as we're looking at this bar chart, if we analyze it, the main things to analyze are that these two are the same. The number of hours of leisure time that unemployed people have and retired people have are the same. Men always have more free time than females. And then finally, the more you work, the less free time you have. Those are the three things that we can really see here. And then, of course, we have our details to show what we mean. So we can see here, I used a really high-level grammar, and I added a lot of information here into my intro. This is something you guys can do. First thing I want to point out is that I did use passive voice here. So you can see here, the chart below shows this is active voice. I said the number of hours of leisure time enjoyed in an average week by both men and women is illustrated in the given chart. I also want to point out this, I do not say below, I say given. Please don't make this mistake because there is no graph below your essay. I also want to point out the basic information that I added. So between 1998 and 1999, this is extra information that I am pulling from here. Anytime that there's basic information in the graph, you want to try to put that into your intro so that you can refer to it and not waste words in your overview and your body 1 and body 2. Also, he said distinct kinds of work in his essay. Distinct kinds of employment. Again, that's a weird thing to say, but I understood what he was trying to say, so that would have been a 5 or a 6. This is the sentence frame that you guys can steal if you're talking about the different categories. Divided based on their employment status. Now I know you guys may be looking at employment status and say, but this is the same word. It's okay to sometimes use the same word. Yes, most of the time you do want to use a higher level word or a different word because it doesn't really count towards your word count if you're copying. Unfortunately, there's not a better way to say employment status, and so it is perfectly okay to leave it here. The thing that I want you guys to notice is divided based on their employment status. All of these are the employment statuses. We use divided in the sentence frame to say what the different categories are. All right, next we have our overview. We can see that we actually have 2 sentences, which is okay. Your overview should be 1 to 2 sentences, normally 1, but sometimes there's so much big picture information that you have 2. Again, your overview should start with the word overall, and it also should not have details. We can also see that we have some referencing here. Those who were unemployed means the men and women who were unemployed or retired regardless of sex. This is a nice high-level little piece of grammar there. This means it doesn't matter if it was male or female, had the most leisure time available by a significant margin. So this is important because I'm saying how much. This is one thing a lot of students miss in their essays. They don't say how much of a difference there is, but that's what they're looking for. So what this means is that retired and unemployed men and women have a lot more free time than all the other categories, which is true if we look at the graph. Also, had the most leisure time available is the sentence frame that we should be using for describing static comparisons. The most time available. Had the most time available. This is the sentence frame you guys should be learning. Then I have a second point. Men had more leisure time than females. Again, this is another comparison. This is the type of language you guys need to learn. This is a second sentence frame. It looks really basic. It is very basic, but it is correct. This is the language we use to describe a bar chart. In all categories where their data is present. This is another thing. So when the original poster, when the student wrote their essay, they assumed that because there was no black bar, they thought that it meant it went from 45 hours of free time a week to 0 hours of free time a week. I think that that's not the right interpretation. I think that what this means is that they know the data for men who are employed, men who are unemployed, and men who are retired. But they don't have the data for part-time working men and part-time men who are house husbands. So that is why I said where their data was present. What this means is that we don't have data about part-time men and we don't have data about house husbands. Okay, so this is the overview. There were 3 main points to pull from here in these 2 sentences. Now, down here, we have something a little interesting. I only have 1 paragraph. Sometimes this is okay. It's usually better to have 2 paragraphs because you can have 1 idea in the first paragraph and 1 idea in the second paragraph. But because everything was so connected in this bar chart, I did just put it in 1 bodied paragraph. That is okay, but mostly for higher level English users. Okay, so I have a topic sentence here, which is something I want students to start trying to do even in task 1, where you say the main idea at the top so that you can explain it with your details. The amount of leisure time available is inversely related to the amount of paid work. So the reason I said paid work is because housewives are unpaid work. I'm sorry, but it's true. I wish it wasn't. I think husbands should probably pay their wives for all the work that they do. But this is how it is. And then inversely related, this is probably high level for you guys. This means that there's an opposite relationship. So what this means is that the more free time you have, the less paid work you have. Or if you say the opposite, the more paid work you have, the less leisure time or free time you have. That's what inversely related here means. Next, we have both men and women who work full-time. So I'm saying which category. It's men who work full-time and women who work full-time. This is the sentence you should use to describe that. Had the least amount of free time. Again, this is the sentence frame that you should be using. Had the least amount of free time. Least is what's important here. With approximately 46 and 39 hours of it respectively. We'll use, I'm running out of colors. Let's use purple. Okay. And of course, it is referencing something that you guys should try to do. It means free time. So we're saying the comparison, they have the least amount of free time. This is directly connected to my topic sentence, which is saying the relationship between free time and paid work. So if you have full-time work, you have the least amount of leisure time. And then, of course, in purple, I have the detail. How many hours? You always need to prove your point. You need to prove what you're saying. All right. Well, only female data is present for these employment statuses. Part-time working women had slightly more free time. Again, you're saying how much more free time than their full-time counterparts. This again is referencing. And then of course I have the detail here with nearly 41 hours of it. Again, it is important to notice that I'm always proving what I say. And then you guys may say, hey, Teacher Michael, look, a percentage. I thought you said no percentages. What I'm saying here is I'm saying how much more. So I'm not saying 10% of, I'm not making a mistake with the number of hours. I'm saying that there are 10% more hours worked by housewives than by part-time females. So again, this is the same thing as saying slightly more or moderately more. And again, the detail with just about 50 hours. I'm putting all the details in purple so that you guys can clearly see them. Had the most free time. Again, just highlighting this so that you guys see the sentence frame when you're comparing. To enjoy. And then the second most. With women of both categories having the second most. All right, we are almost done, guys. So Raghav just asked, how much time does it take to become from an intermediate to a higher level English communicator or English user? Let me think. You know what? I don't know off the top of my head. There is actually a chart that shows the number of hours that you need to study to reach that. For me, I found that it varies from student to student. Honestly, the best thing you can do is increase your input. So that means reading and watching TV shows and listening in English. And then eventually there's just one moment where everything clicks, where things sound right or they sound wrong. Once you have that ear in English, that is when you are really a higher level English user. So keep reading every day if you're not. Keep watching TV shows every day. Keep listening to English podcasts and music, and it will happen. I will tell Phil about your question, and he will answer it during his live stream tomorrow at 7 when we have a chart and we do a little bit of research for that. That was a great question, Raghav. Feel free to ask more. Okay. Finally, we have the detail that shows this. So again, we're saying that unemployed men and retired men had the most free time, and women had the second most free time. So this is a general statement. Now we need to prove it, which is why we have the next sentence. Both unemployed and retired men had around 85 hours of free time each, while women for both categories had about 10 hours fewer. And again, what I want to point out here is 10 hours fewer. I'm saying how much fewer hours. And this is raising my task achievement score because I'm comparing it. I'm saying fewer, and then I'm also saying how much fewer. 10 hours fewer, 10% more, slightly more, and then of course after I say how much more, I have a detail that shows it. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our live stream. I know it's surprisingly short, but I want to go over the main points again. The student's problem was that he was using the wrong kinds of sentences. I 100% think that if he learned the right sentences, because his grammar was so good, I think that if he learned the right sentences to describe static graphs like this one, again, looking at my line chart gives you some great sentence frames. And then of course we also had a sentence frame right here. to describe the data correctly, that he would have a 6. I 100% think that, because his CC was actually pretty good. His grammar was really good. His vocab was good. It was just the wrong vocab to be using. The only other thing, aside from learning the right sentences, was he needs to work a little bit more on his analysis, finding the significant features, and actually saying the relationships between the two genders, saying how much of a difference there is, and then also seeing that there is a relationship between how much a person is working and how much free time they have. If he fixed these two problems, I 100% think he would get a 6, even though his score for this essay was a 4.5. He is one of those lucky people where I have a feeling his English ability is quite good. It's just he doesn't know how to write IELTS. So he's lucky. The reason why I say he's lucky is because the harder thing to do is fix your grammar and your vocab, specifically your grammar. It always takes a lot longer for people to improve their vocab and grammar than it is to learn the right structure or the right skills for the IELTS exam. If you are the type of student who has low vocab and who has low grammar, I highly recommend that you guys read 20 minutes of English every day. This is what I found is the best way to improve your English over time, is to read below your level 20 minutes every day, and rereading is also okay. Find a book you like, make sure that it is below your level. Again, I recommend a graded reader. These are English books made for people learning English. Find out what your level is. If you are a 6, you should get a book that is a 5 or a 5.5. Read that 20 minutes every day, finish that book, and then read a harder book. I promise you that after 1 month, maybe a month and a half, English will become so much easier for you, you'll understand more, and hopefully reading will become fun. Now, Raghav just asked another question. Thank you so much for being so interactive here, Raghav. Lack of quality speakers is an impediment for me. Whenever I speak, it's feigned or fake. So it looks like there are some problems with choosing appropriate vocabulary, and he has trouble brainstorming answers. Okay. For the academic section of the reading or listening, he got 28 out of 40. Now that's actually quite high. 28 out of 40 is not bad. But that's why you're watching us, right, Raghav? Is coming up with brainstorming. I hope that you found this useful, by the way. It sounds like you have probably more of a problem with your speaking and writing task 2, since that's when you need more brainstorming. With task 1, it really is just analysis, and the graphs that they give you are not too complicated. Keep joining us, and hopefully it will continue to improve. Thank you so much for joining us, Raghav. You have been awesome. Thank you so much for your questions. By the way, before I leave, are there any more questions from Raghav or anybody else who's watching? And don't forget, by the way, guys, if 2 o'clock does not work for you, please let us know and we will change the afternoon time slot. And also don't forget that tomorrow Phil is going to be doing a speaking where he will be doing a mock exam with people who call in. So I hope you guys are excited for that as well. That will be tomorrow at 7. How do you join? You show up to Phil's live stream, and then you say in chat that you would like to be one of the people talking. I will also let Phil know ahead of time that you are interested in the mock. And I'm sure you will get a slot, Raghav, because you have been so awesome. I will let Phil know that you're interested, and he will reach out to you. You can also let us know that you want to on the Discord channel. So again, the Discord channel is right down here in the description of this video. Hi everybody, this is us. So if you go down here, you can see the Discord channel where me and Phil like to hang out. And then I actually have it, I have the Discord app on my computer, but it does bring you to our channel where you can say hello in general. We're trying to build a community here, so tell your friends if they are also interested in the IELTS exam, and I will let Phil know. Okay, thank you guys for joining. Please come to the Discord channel if you are interested or able. You guys have been fantastic, and I hope that you found this interesting and useful. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody!